You started off by quoting Tina Turner and what's love got to do with the treaty. So could you maybe give us a bit of a synopsized version, I don't know, 30, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever you need, it doesn't matter, to explain to us, to me, what's love got to do with Te Tiriti?
Yeah, I've been pondering the treaty along with many others, Pat, for years and years, and seeking to understand it, seeking to see where it fits amongst us, and also becoming I guess a believer, a believer in the treaty over the years, and a believer that it plays a pretty significant role in us, for us, in Aotearoa. And I've also struggled to understand, how we can make it work, and look at all the articles, and I've looked at every word backwards and sideways, and and inside out, and I've listened to all the commentators and that, and I've really just meditated on it a lot. And one of the things that I've come to understand is sometimes it's not so much the exact meanings of words that are the most crucial. That sometimes that they're the secondary thing. It's really trying to understand what the intent is behind a word.
Right.
And I began to see sometimes that this word love was used in context of the treaty. The first time I actually came across it, I think, was when I became aware of Whakahuihui Werko's speech in 1990, this extraordinary prophetic speech that he uttered extemporaneously to the Queen in the sesquicentennial of the treaty. And at the end of it, he appealed to people, and he said, let us sit with one another, and let us love one another in the strength of God as we work this thing out. And so, being a believer myself, and I was sort of attracted by this understanding that the treaty is essentially a relational construct in the first instance, that it's a mechanism to actually join people together. And so the words are the outworking of that intent of actually joining people together, and also the aspect of its reconciliatory component. But being a bit of a historian, I did come across Henry Williams's appeal to the rangatira on the night of the 5th at Te Tau Rangatira, when he was involved in their wānanga as they were discussing the day's events and the toing and froing about will they accept the treaty or will they not. By the end of the 5th, that was the first day of the discussions, things were looking pretty tenuous. It didn't really look like, I think, that it was going to get over the line. And so in many ways, that discussion on the night of the 5th at Te Tau, I think, was the thing that enabled the treaty to get over the line. And one of the things that Henry Williams says, that this is an act of love from Queen Victoria to you, and that she is wanting you to hold on to your lands, your chieftainship, e te mea te mea. So this thing of love came into it again, and I wanted to understand, okay, love is a pretty kind of, in our modern society, it's either kind of a rather erotic term or it's a wishy-washy term, and it doesn't carry a lot of strength to it. So I wanted to explore a little bit about what did Williams actually mean when he was actually seeking to convince the chiefs that this is an act of love. And so when I talked about it the other day, I explained about what a biblical sense of love is. That's the word agape, and the Greeks have about 4 terms for love, and one of them, is eros, and there's philo, there's the brotherly love, etc., sisterly love. But he was talking about an agape love, and that's what I've come to understand, Pat, or feel. Maybe understand is too strong a word. This is my thinking, that actually relational joining only happens when both parties are willing to sacrifice something of themselves for the other. So that was really what this exhortation was to love. And I'll just finish on this point, was that he was committing, in his words, the crown he was committing their love to Māori, and their love was that they would always seek the highest good for Māori. This is what he exhorted the chiefs. Basically, he said, look, the Queen wants your highest good, and she's committed to that, in other words. So that's why that kind of ethos, I feel, was such an important hinge point in even approaching the words, the specific words of the treaty itself. I hope does that make it a little clear?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well, because you mentioned, like, as part of your speech, that the treaty is a love story from the Queen. There's been a little bit of back and forth online about that today, when people have just kind of clipped that out, and they've related. This is what I see. They're relating that to how the treaty's being handled today. They're relating that it was a love story from the Queen to meaning, but look what they did with it. Like, it might have been an attempt at love, but how it actually then was carried out was very unloving, whatever the opposite of unloving is. Do you want to use this opportunity just to speak to that, if you're interested? Because some people seem to be thinking that the way that that's described, a treaty as a love story from the Queen, is wrong, because all the Queen wanted to do was steal our land and and put into prison our people. The way I kind of heard it was, every time, and I heard someone say this today actually, so it's not mine, every time we start a marriage, we always start loving them, and they're always the best ways to kind of be, I love you, it's all about love. That can end up being very bad, but the intention at the start was a loving one. Do you have any interest in kind of addressing that in case it's come up in your conversations today?
Yeah, it has come up, Pat, and one of the problems is that when things are only, if you take one sentence and you take it out of context, and as they say, these things are complicated, and so as simple as you try and make it, there's always it's always necessary to explicate it a bit further.
Yeah.
And so my present understanding is in terms of, shall we say, that the way it began is that there was a commitment from the Crown in the first instance to Māori that Māori rangatiratanga would be honoured. And I said it in my speech, that I said, in fact, it only took a year for that promise to turn sour.
Right.
And
that's the piece that the online conversations are missing. You've said it started in a certain way, and then within 12 months, it looked like a pile of crap.
Yeah, and then I quoted Hone Heke, Panekariao, and the cutting of the flagpole, the shifting of the land, the shadow of the land going to the governor Itamir, and then talking about Cameron invading the Waikato. And I talk about that and I'm using the metaphor I called Gray, like an unfaithful spouse who used violence to overthrow his loved one, really. So that was what I'm getting to.